Houston travels to Birmingham where they will take on the Auburn Tigers. Dion, this is a rematch of a game last year that Houston actually lost. People might forget, but the Cougs started out 5-3. There's a little bit of panic around that program. Of course, they righted the ship, got right, so to speak, and rode that momentum all the way to the championship game. So ended up being a bunch of panic over nothing. And yet, I can't help but think this Houston team probably has that this game circled just after what transpired last year. And even looking at this Auburn unit, they've had some moments. They shook off squeaking by Bethune-Cookman on the opening night of the season. They've blown out Wofford and they blew out Merrimack in their most recent bye games. Have sort of fine-tuned some things, and they do have a lot of talent. But to me, when I look at these two rosters, even with some of Houston's struggles offensively that we've documented, this just feels like one of those spots, again, even going on the road where Houston reminds the country that they're one of the two or three best teams in the sport, the best team in the sport if you look at the AP poll. So, Dion, what are
Well,
you looking for out of this game? What are you hoping to learn?
won't be number one next week. Shout out Purdue.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Purdue answered some doubts for sure, but Houston has a chance to make a little statement as well and beat the other Alabama school.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple notes on this game. I mean, first off, I think this is the first top 25 game I've done on the channel, so this is really cool.
This is fun.
Not ever, but like first of the year, and it's kind of like that signal, like, hey, we're getting feast week is around the corner. Um, I don't love Auburn. Haven't loved Auburn all off season. Been pretty out on Auburn the whole off season. Um, I was not a huge fan of their transfer class. I've obviously had my Tahad Pedford sentiment, which, by the way, anytime anybody's ready to like give me my flowers on that one, like I'll be here. I
He
will be
is
here.
he has been
Uh,
underwhelming so far.
yeah, and that's Riley, what I love about you, and I say this on and off camera, is how nice you are when also being mean.
To use a word like underwhelming instead of saying like, dude, what is wrong with Tahad Pettiford? He's shooting 17% from three on the season.
27% from the field. Underwhelming doesn't begin to describe 27% from the field, 17% from three, 33 total points on the season. He averages 31 minutes a game.
It's been really disappointing. I think I will take away some of the sugar coating that's covering this Tahad Pettiford poop sandwich to start the year. This was a guy who was in All-American conversations. This was a guy who we ranked top 10 in our preseason list of the top 100 players, which maybe that's bad on us, Dion. I personally did not put him in the top 10, I don't think. I'm gonna blame that on Greg or Hammer.
Oh, first off, what we won't be doing is blaming G. I will never stand for that. Second off, I don't think it's incorrect. I think for what it's worth, the
But it is
reason I
incorrect
said
right now.
yes. So, well, the reason I said anytime anyone's ready to give me my flowers and I didn't comment on the hate I got is because I think that's the correct way to go about it. I think I was outlandish in coming out and saying, here's what I thought was going to happen. Now, I felt that way based upon history that I've watched throughout like my time watching basketball. Don't get me wrong. And no one saying Todd can't turn it around. I do believe he can turn it around. But I think if you have a guy that like was supposed to be a first round pick and he returns for his sophomore year, I do believe he's a top 10 player in the sport. You
Fair.
know what I mean? Like, I think that's a very, very fair take. I think it's more unfair what my take was. Just so far, mine happened to be correct.
Do you want to remind everybody what your take was again?
My take is always this. If you go through the whole draft process and they tell you no, there's normally something wrong. And it never actually goes in your favor when you return. There's some caveats that are different from that. Harrison Barnes, right? He returned for his sophomore year at Carolina. Big difference though. He didn't go to the draft because of the lockout. He was going
Correct.
to be the number one pick and just said, "Hey, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play basketball next year, so I'll come back to college." That's a big difference. They told Tahad Pettiford no, and he was like, "Okay, I'll go to Auburn." Why did they tell him no?
Probably because he's undersized. Probably because his ability to run an
17%
offense is
from
still.
17% from three probably plays a big role in it.
Can I give you at least so okay, I don't want to spoil our predictions or anything, but I do think Houston wins this game. I think they're again, despite their questions, it's Kelvin Sampson versus Stephen Pearl. It's the best coach in the sport versus a guy in his first year on the job who doesn't have any experience. And this is like a pedigree type of game where I do think Auburn will rise to the occasion somewhat. But I think ultimately, again, it's like, dude, it's a first year head coach against Kelvin Sampson, who has probably heard the noise about like, does this team actually deserve to be number one? They haven't looked that much better than Purdue. They struggled offensively against Towson. Towson hung around way too long in that game, even though I think Towson's a pretty good mid major. So I think Houston will win this game, but I think Auburn has a compelling case to at least make it interesting and perhaps pull the upset. So part of it is Auburn is third in the country right now in offensive rebounding rate. And I like that that sort of neutralizes what is typically a Houston advantage on the boards. Houston is going to out rebound 99% of their opponents, but maybe Auburn can be in that 1% to where they actually get the edge there. I also think they
You
have
said they
some.
were third in the country in offensive rebounding rate.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question? And I do have a comment, but like, what is their defensive rebounding percentage?
Their defensive rebounding percentage 30th. So they're top 30 in the country and they're top 30 in the country in both offensive and defensive rebounding rates.
Do we think the reason the offensive rebounding rate is higher is because they clank everything off the rim a million times a game?
Let's see. What are they? They are shooting 28% from three, so that might have something to do with it.
I'm not saying they're not a great offensive rebounding team, but it's really easy to be a really good offensive rebounding team if all you do is miss.
Yeah. And
You
Auburn
don't
has
really
shown
have a
this a lot
choice
of
at that
times.
point.
Yeah, I would say though, their front court I think has actually been pretty impressive. That was one of the bigger question marks going into the year, and they're doing this with Keyshawn Murphy, who hasn't played since the game against Bethune-Cookman. He missed both the Merrimack and the Wofford contests, but they've gotten good minutes out of Emeka Purum, who's a JUCO transfer who has just looked good. I was gonna say confident, but I'll go ahead and give him good. Like he's mobile, he has good defensive instincts. He's so far done a pretty good job of staying out of foul trouble, all things considered. Um, yeah, only three fouls combined the last two games. And he's a little more physical than I expected, and just been he has been the one who is ending possessions on the defensive glass. On the other end, I think Sebastian Williams Adams has proved he's a little bit further along than I expected as well. He stepped in nicely in a starting role, and I kind of just thought he was going to be an athlete, like catch and dunk, run the court, that type of thing. But had 5 assists against Merrimack and showed the ability to make reads like from the top of the key or from the pinch post, and they'll Auburn's going to run those like flex cuts around a big like they did with Janai Broom or Dylan Cardwell, who, yeah, you put them at the top of the key and let them make reads. And I think Williams Adams can do that as well. So when you have a young front court that's a little bit further along, plus Keshan Hall, that's the big factor
Yeah.
here. Keshan Hall has played awesome so far this year. To where I just think if you're gonna get bigs that can match Houston's physicality and then a big guard who also rebounds really well and lives at the free throw line with Keshan Hall, there's a chance Auburn can hang around in this game and even win if like that crowd over in Birmingham is especially raucous and gets behind them.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, I want to say, like, we're through 3 games. Like, for as right on Tahad Pedford, I've been through 3 games. I've been equally as wrong about Keyshawn Hall. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
he is looking like an All-American. And
He's
honestly,
awesome.
All-American might be playing it short. Like, if Auburn is good, like, this dude's putting up National Player of the Year numbers right
Yeah,
now.
right, right. He
He's
is.
been special 24 and 11. He's hitting, knocking down threes. Like, 58% from the field, 75% from three on just under 3 attempts a game. What are we talking about? Like that is insane. Now, granted, I won't list off the opponents that have been played. With out of respect for Keyshawn Hall. But I mean the kid's been phenomenal. I think this team right now goes as he goes. I think Tahad's gonna have to make it to where they go as Tahad goes
Mhm.
for them to really hit their peak, and I do believe he can do that. But right now they're going as Keyshawn Hall goes. I think he's gonna present problems for Houston. Where I think they're really gonna struggle is who else is gonna make shots. And I don't just mean like shots in general, but I mean threes. I mean, you mentioned Sebastian Williams Adams. I do believe he can knock one down,
Mhm.
but like I don't think he's gonna make multiple threes a game. Elijah Freeman has been ready for the level of competition they've played so far.
Mhm.
Coming up from the JUCO level. I think he's playing good, but he's also shooting 14% from three. We spoke
Yeah.
about the Tahad Pettiford struggles. Jovic, I thought, was farther along from the 3 point line than he's shown this season. Kevin Overton's been good from the 3 point line. thus far. I think he's probably gonna have to play a little bit more this game than maybe in like the previous games, just because he is, I think, the only other 30% three-point shooter on the roster at the moment.
That's crazy.
So
It's like
somebody's gonna have to play.
all the guys who you expected to be shooters have been the opposite, with Tahad being awful so far to start from beyond the arc, and then even Elijah Freeman only has 7 attempts, but he just hit one of them. Like I do think knocking down threes will probably be what swings this game if you can get Tahad to
Yeah,
shake out of the slump. If you can see some of I mean, having guys in Kevin Overhead and Keshan Hall who played Houston last year, I think that should help. Like the moment's not going to be too big for them if they can sort of settle the team down a little bit. I guess Tahad would have been in that game in the non-con last year too, but again, much different Auburn team. And I think just those guys with the starting level experience that kind of know what to expect with how physical that defense is, with how they're going to blitz ball screens and trap, and how good they are at help side defense and just cutting off the water at the rim.
yeah,
And however, you can be as ready as you want if you don't step up and make shots, especially with a Houston team that still has Emmanuel Sharp. They're not as good of a three-point shooting team as they were last year. They still have Emmanuel Sharp. Obviously, Uzan can hit from deep. Even though he's been pretty
Any,
cold to start. Yeah, he's been cold to start the year too. I got to mention that. But
I mean,
they
like,
still.
we can't say what, or at least I can't. I don't want to speak for you. I can't say what I said about Todd Pettiford and not say the same thing about Milos.
Yeah, what is Uzan shooting right now? Let me see. He's
Like
oh
28.
wow, jeez, bro, he's at 22%. What is
Ooh,
up with these dudes who came back? Milos is 33% from two and 22% from three.
I will
Attempted.
say this about Milos though. I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
again.
you're good.
This is the coming out party. Like this game right here, you're telling me he's not gonna cook Tahad Pettiford? With all due respect to Tahad Pettiford, 6'1" is his listed height, not 6'1", not 6'1". You know what I mean? And how tall is Milos? Like 6'5"?
He's listed at 6'4", but he's a big guard. Yeah, like he's a
Yeah.
legit 6'4", I think.
Like this is the game where Milos is like, okay, like even if he doesn't shoot, layup, 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 layup. And if you send a double, Sanak, Flemings, JoJo Tugler, Emmanuel Sharp, like Houston has too many weapons. There's too many ways that they could beat this Auburn team. And you mentioned Elijah Freeman only shoot like having shot 7 attempts. That's equally as concerning as just missing, right? Like
Mhm.
there's a reason people don't shoot.
It's fair. It's fair. Yeah, I honestly didn't realize Uzan had been as bad as has been. Um, Only 2 free throw attempts on the year too, but I do like this spot as a get right game for him. However, even if he doesn't, Dion, you already mentioned his name. They have another 6'4" point guard who loves to get downhill and can punish you with Kingston Flemings. And he's someone every time I watch the tape, I'm like, this dude is freaking legit, man. I don't know. Again, I don't know enough of like what's the relationship like between Samson and Uzan to where is Samson going to go down with the Uzan ship where he's like, that's my guy? Or does it go back to what we talked about after the Towson game where Uzan is cool taking that secondary backcourt role and really letting Kingston Flemings taking the reins and driving the car for this team? Because if Houston lives up to the hype, if it maintains this top three ranking, let's say, because they probably won't stay number one all year, they will have some losses and it will fluctuate. But if they maintain a top three or top five ranking all year, there's been nothing that I've seen out of Kingston Flemings that hasn't suggested to me that he can't be an All American. That's how good I think he is. I mean, he's someone who shot the ball really well too. He's smaller sample size, but 43%. He's knocked down a three, I believe, in every game. And he's just so good at getting to the rim. And I think eventually he's going to get a little better, a little more of a superstar whistle. He doesn't have a ton of free throw attempts on the season either, but I just think his burst, his athleticism, his ability to finish through contact, I mean, that just gives this Houston team a dimension that, as much as I like Milos Uzan, I I just think Kingston is superior in that and those aspects, and it makes sense. I mean, Kingston is a McDonald's All-American French five-star kid, but yeah, so I think there are two guards here who can really flip it for Houston, and they just need one of them to go off, and there's a chance they get good performances from both.
I think I mean, a couple things. One, in terms of if Calvin goes down with the Uzan ship, like I think you can go down with the Uzan ship by January and then still be okay hopping on the Fleming ship and being ready for March.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point.
um, and I really do think that's like likely how it's gonna go.
Hmm.
But I think what was I gonna say? So what's interesting in this game, if when it was scheduled, right? Auburn, Houston, the NBA dudes we thought about were like obviously Chris Sinat, probably like first and foremost. Um, and then you had Tahad, and
Hmm.
then you had probably Milos, and then you kind of go down the list. But like now, when you think about the NBA dudes, like I think it's different. I mean, I still think it's Sanak, but I think Flemings is probably the first one. Like he's been the most impressive player on either team thus far.
Yeah.
I think he's the one that's like the most on NBA radars.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it's crazy to see how that's flipped so quickly already. But I don't know. I still might lean Sinak just because I think that preseason buzz where he was seen as a consensus top 10 pick is going to continue to carry over. And I know he struggled a little bit offensively. He's further along than I thought he'd be defensively already, though. And his size, like his frame. Oh, it's just it's so rare to see dudes who are that skilled offensively with that at his height, who like their bodies have already filled out and they look like they can handle the contact and everything. So, but yeah, and I even to that end, that's where I do think ultimately swings this game if we want to nail down our predictions. I think Auburn with Sebastian Williams Adams and Emeka, they can hang around on the glass, can do some damage at the rim, but I just think even in a big game where you could get a nuclear Tahad game and he erases these concerns, unless he makes like five or six threes, I just don't trust him getting to the rim at this point against both Tugler and Sanak. I think both those dudes can make life so difficult on opposing ball handlers. I think Freeman might struggle with the physicality of that. You're probably going to get Keshan Hall putting up numbers, but I just don't think it's enough. And on the other end, if you have Uzan taking advantage of having to hot on him, if you have Kingston continuing to build on these stellar performances he's been stringing together, I think there's a world where Houston wins by double digits. I think I lean toward it being probably like a nice clean 9 point win and saying like 78 to 69, somewhere in that range.
I think I got Houston winning by a little bit more than that. I think they're I just don't think Auburn is fully together yet.
Hmm.
And even within Houston struggles, that's never going to be them being a team is never going to be like an issue, if that makes sense, right?
Right. Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think I got Houston 81-62.
Ooh.
I think this one gets a little ugly. I mean, I think it's closer than that score shows, right? Like I
Yeah.
think through the first 33-ish minutes of the game. It's probably like 8, 9 point lead, like your score. And then I think the last 6 or 7, Houston just punches them in the mouth and Auburn kind of gives up. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I don't think this is the spot for Tahad to kind of get his, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like if you struggled so far, I don't think going up against Kelvin Sampson's defense is the defense you want to see. On the other end, I don't know what Auburn has to slow down those Houston guards.
Mhm.
And like with all due respect, if you can't slow down Uze Sharp, Flemings, man, is that front court going to be even tougher to stop because like now they have all their energy for defense and just
Mhm.
throwing lobs. Um, yeah, I think Houston has too many horses. Auburn will figure it out. I do believe Todd will figure it out to an extent,
Mhm.
but I think we've said it a lot about certain teams with guys that like have that NBA viewpoint, or I guess you could say that NBA goal. Um, yeah, I think we gotta like find a new role. Like I don't think he's gonna be a lead guard
Right.
for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. A lot of fascinating storylines. We'll see how it all plays out. It's nice to do a top 25 game, Dion. It'll be fun to be watching to this one. We will be back afterwards breaking it all down.